Hello and welcome. My name's Tony. I'm here with the Everyday Counts program. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. And we have an hour together for chair yoga. And we're going to have a full practice, but I want to talk a little bit at the beginning about the pelvic floor. And today and for the next few weeks, we're going to be focusing a section on awareness and building awareness and strength through the pelvic floor. So what is the pelvic floor? The pelvic floor is a group of muscles that connect from the pubic bone right at the front of the pelvis, underneath and slightly up at the back to the tailbone. So the pelvic floor is not just underneath, it actually tips up at the back, simply because our pelvis is slightly tipped forward in the neutral position. The pelvic floor, why is it important? Well, the pelvic floor is there to do a number of things. A healthy pelvic floor will support all your inner organs. If you think about all of your internal organs, the pelvic floor is at the very base of that. So a healthy pelvic floor holds everything in place. And if there's any problem with the pelvic floor, some of the lower organs can actually prolapse, so can actually come out of the position that they're supposed to be in and cause all kinds of problems. So that's one of the reasons that the pelvic floor is really important. Another reason is it's a staple of our core stability, which comes into our balance, our posture. So a healthy pelvic floor can help influence all of those things: stability and our posture. The pelvic floor is also vital for sexual health, and well-being in the pelvic floor helps us having a healthy sex life, and it actually increases and strengthens orgasms. So that's something to look forward to. And then finally, of course, and this is the one that's most well known, the pelvic floor is responsible for bladder and bowel control. So a weakening in the pelvic floor can lead to bladder leakage or even problems with a weakening in the pelvic floor can help be the cause of problems in bladder and bowel control. In fact, 1 in 3 women will experience urinary leakage. And this is not something that is often talked about, but it's often something that can be helped and supported and overcome with simply bringing awareness to and using some simple exercises to help strengthen the pelvic floor. It's not only women. 1 in 9 men will also experience problems with bladder and bowel control. So the pelvic floor is super important. You'll probably have heard the word Kegel before. And this is used as a kind of overall term for tightening the pelvic floor and a whole lot more around that and letting that go. Well, surprisingly, that if you're doing this wrong, then it can actually help tighten the pelvic floor. And a lot of the time when we're tightening the pelvic floor, over time, this actually creates a weakness in the pelvic floor. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. And today we're going to be learning about relaxing the pelvic floor, which is one of the most important things we can do. Before we learn anything else, we're going to start to learn where the pelvic floor is and how to relax it. And we're going to start with the breath. So setting yourself up for your practice, sitting away from the back of your chair. If you want to strengthen through that core, if you like the support of it behind you, sit into it. Feet at a comfortable distance. Picking up through those toes, spreading the toes wide. You can even pick up the balls of the feet if you like. Give those feet a little bit of a wiggle. And then we're sending the soles of the feet down, balls of the feet and the heels, and then the toes are simply soft, no gripping in the toes. Notice the support underneath you. I highly recommend that you close your eyes or soften or lower your gaze to really wake up that awareness down in your feet. Allow the weight of your legs to sit into that support. Take your awareness up to your seat, where it's connected down to the chair. You can wiggle and waggle a little bit. And then notice if your shoulders are forward of your hips or back of your hips. See if you can balance them as more or less over the top of the hips. And then we're getting the pelvis in a neutral position. So we're neither sticking our tailbone out with our shoulders in front of it or curling in as we round. We want the shoulders over the hips so the spine is neutral and the pelvis is coming to a neutral place. It's going to look different for each of us because we're all put together differently. Notice if you're sitting more to one side or the other and see if that can be balanced out in your way. Everything from the pelvis down gets nice and heavy. And then we'll lift up through the spine, up through the crown of the head. The crown of the head reaches towards the sky. Roll the shoulders back and down a number of times, easing any tension. And then allow the shoulders to feel heavy as they settle away from the ears, drawing the shoulder blades just gently towards each other. Not so much so that the front ribs pop out, just a slight opening through the collarbones. Take a breath in, keep the shape. Exhale, let go of any tension, and you can take a few breaths like that, noticing your posture here, noticing if it feels different to normal, how you sit in a chair, or if you want to adjust or adapt something to feel better for you. With that rooting to rise, go inwards and start to notice just how you're feeling today. Notice if there's a lot on your mind, a lot on your heart. No judgment here, simply a curiosity. Notice your physical body from your toes all the way up to the crown of your head and to the tips of your fingertips. Notice the back body, the inside body, the front body. Notice tightness and tension, and allowing yourself to shift or move in any way that eases that. And then also take your awareness to the quieter places, the places that feel easeful. And then when you're ready, starting to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out through your nose if that's comfortable for you. And if it's not, just breathing in your own easy way. Starting to deepen that inhale and lengthen the exhale in your own rhythm. And I want you to focus your breath here right in your chest and upper heart space. Now feeling that expansion on the inhale, that softening on the exhale. Smoothing that breath out as best as you can. And then we're going to take that awareness of the breath down into the lower ribs. Not just the front ribs, but the side and the back ribs too, those lower ribs. That same deeper, steadier in-breath and exhale. And then we're going to take that awareness down into the belly too. So on the inhale, the belly expands. And on that exhale, there's a softening. Let it happen naturally and effortlessly. If you're trying to force a lot of that exhale, making it really a lot bigger than normal, see if you can keep it more sustainable. And then I want you to take your awareness down to the pelvic floor. So between your pubic bone and your tailbone. And I want you to focus on the pelvic floor on the inhale, just allowing itself to expand downwards a little. And on that exhale, everything settling back. So the same as it's kind of like a whole torso breath, but focused on that pelvic floor. Allowing it to happen naturally and effortlessly. So this is not a bearing down. And this can take quite a lot of focus to connect with. So as the diaphragm pushes down, it pushes down into the belly, which pushes the pelvic floor down on that inhale. And as the diaphragm lifts, as the air comes out, the pelvic floor lifts too. Again, not pushing the pelvic floor down. This is not a bearing down weight. This is trying to get connected to that overall breath, which also is connected to the pelvic floor. It might even help to imagine, if you like, the pelvic floor, and on the inhale, it curves downwards. And on the exhale, it comes back to center, even getting a slight dome in there. And we're going to come back to this at the end of class. And this is why we're going to do it in parts. Every week we're going to be adding on, so you get time to practice in between before we add something else. So whole body breath. And that's the breath we're going to keep coming back to throughout the class. From here, we root to rise. Once again, those shoulders lower and the collarbones broaden. With the crown of your head, as if you had a laser pointer lifting up towards the ceiling, we're going to start to slowly create circles on the ceiling. Allowing those movements to be slow, one circle to one cycle of breath. As you do that, tune into how you're experiencing this, noticing if there are particular angles that feel tender to you, taking extra care. Always making the movement only as big as the breath allows, so we're not holding the breath at any point. Maybe those circles get a little bigger, maybe they don't. And then when you're ready, we're pausing, and then take that round in the opposite direction. Start small. Slowly moving the neck and head, always slow, and we move through the neck, paying attention to if we need to adjust something or adapt it. Let's take another 2. Coming all the way back to center. Dangling those hands down. Drawing those collarbones nice and wide. And on an inhale, we're drawing the shoulders up by the ears. Exhaling, drawing them down and round. whichever direction you happen to be going in. Slow, steady movements with the breath, whole torso breaths. Any time you want to, you can focus down on that pelvic floor or the whole torso breath. And then at the end of the next exhale, we're going to pause. You can rest if you want to, or we'll take that round in the opposite direction. Nicely done. Let's take another couple of breaths there. And next time we come down, we'll come back to support. Big breath in. Exhale it out. Hands coming back onto the legs or the arms of the chair. If you're sitting back in your chair as we come into cat and cow, I encourage you to come forward. On the inhale, draw the hands back as the heart expands forward, arching the back. On the exhale, fingertips slide towards or on the knees, and cat and cow, forward and back. Allow the inhale breath to draw you forward for the entire inhale to the top, and the exhale to push the back ribs towards the back of the chair. You can, of course, lift the chin on the inhale, length through the back of the neck. Exhaling, drawing the chin down towards your chest. The gaze can be inwards, eyes closed, or soft or lowered gaze if that feels good. On that inhale, the tailbone comes out behind you. On the exhale, we're tucking the tailbone here. Focus on that whole body breath. And if you want to add on the inhale, bending the elbows, soft fists in the hands around about the ribs or the waistline. On the exhale, punching the knuckles forward as you round. Inhaling, we're opening up through the front of the body. And on the exhale, opening up the back of the body. Now the arms are just an addition, but the focus here is the spinal flexion and extension. Let's take another 3 breaths here, wherever you are. Last breath. When you're ready, you can always rest, of course. And we're coming back up to center. See if you can focus on that pelvic floor breath. And again, this is not a bearing down, a pushing down. It is a natural ebb and flow of the breath. And again, if you're still confused about it, keep practicing. Most of our life, we don't even know where the pelvic floor is, or we know very little about it. So it takes time to build awareness. And then it takes time to build that connection to it, that we notice the lifting and lowering. Coming into the next shape. I'm going to take those hands across the heart, rooting to rise once more. Stay with that breath. This is the inhale. On the exhale, we're going to tip over to the right side. Right shoulder dips, left shoulder lifts. And up through center and over to the other side. Shoulders over hips here. Now making sure that the feet and the pelvis are rooted. So as we come to one side, that opposite hip is not lifting. As we root down through the pelvis, that often means that the movement gets a little smaller, and that's okay. That means we're just isolating through the spine rather than bringing the pelvis into it. See if you can focus on those breaths too. And a lot of the time in movement, it feels harder to focus on those subtle movements in the body and that pelvic floor. That is okay. If we're just starting to build that awareness, then stillness is a really good place to connect. Let's bring it all the way up. And from here, rooting to rise. Hands resting down, we're going to be twisting to the left. This is the inhale. On the exhale, right hand comes forward, left hand comes back as we gaze to the left. Inhaling back to center. Gentle twisting. We're not using those hands as leverage. They're just sliding up and down the legs. You can gaze over that left shoulder if you want. Adding on with hands. We're going to bend those elbows, palms in front of you. This is the inhale. On the exhale, as you twist to the side, pushing the hands over to the left. Rooting down through the right foot to ground the right side of the pelvis. Inhaling back to center. A lot of the time, as we twist, the opposite hip likes to sneak forward a little, helping us feel like we're getting a deeper twist. We're not interested in the depth of the twist. What we want is the smoothness of movement mirrored with the breath. The gaze can come over that left shoulder if it feels okay in your neck. As if you're pushing something heavy over to the left, as if through water. And let's take 2 more here. Focusing on that steady breath. Coming back to center. You can rest those arms down, give them a little wiggle if you like. And we'll come to the other side when you're ready. Root down through the left foot to keep that left hip rooted back. This is the inhale. On the exhale, either hands down, left hand slides forward, right hand back, or we're bringing that arm movement in. On that exhale, twisting to the right. You can look over that right shoulder if you like. Those arms can be kept bent at the elbows, or you can extend them. It depends what feels good in your body. No wrong way to do this. Working with your breath. Let's take another 2. And coming all the way back to center, allowing those arms to dangle down. Give yourself a little bit of movement here to release any tension. We're going to take those feet a little bit further apart. Now, it could be a little or a lot, but we've got some external rotation here. Ankles more or less under the knees, so they're not out at an odd angle or in at an odd angle. That gives us a bit of stability. If you want to come back into the chair for that stability of the back of your chair, please do. So here with the external rotation, let's come back to that breath. Steady, long inhales and exhales. The diaphragm pushes down on that inhale and the pelvic floor pushes down. And on the exhale, as everything comes back into balance, maybe noticing that lift. You can simply just imagine the pelvic floor lowering on that inhale and drawing to neutral or even arching on that exhale. Again, just building awareness. Great place to stay here, just focusing on your awareness. So the fingertips tip inwards on the arms of your chair or your legs, and this time we are rotating through the ribs. And we're getting the pelvis involved here too. So on the inhale, we're coming forward as the heart draws forward. There's a little cow pose there, and on the exhale, we're rounding into cat pose. What we want is the stability through the core. So this is a controlled movement. There's no momentum involved here. It can be a big movement, a small movement, imagined movement. Next, exhale, let's pause and take it round in the opposite direction. Nicely done. Now allowing the pelvis to move easily along with that movement as best as you can. And then we're going to come back to center after another 2. And when you're ready, coming all the way up, rooting to rise, take a breath in. And exhale it out nice and slow. From here, hands still resting on your legs. This is now the inhale with a long spine. On the exhale, we're simply going to rock the shoulders forward. Inhaling, shoulders coming over the hips, and exhaling forward. Great place to be. Now, if you want to adjust your legs a little or a lot to accommodate for that, you can. Long spine. Option to come forward and down. Inhaling and exhaling. Last one here. Coming all the way back to center. This time we're twisting to the left. So this is the inhale. Exhale, right shoulder comes down. We twist forward and down to the left. And continuing on the left. Glancing over that left shoulder maybe. Let's take another 3 here. And then we'll come to twisting to the right. Coming to the right this time. Left shoulder dips down and round. Glancing over that shoulder. 3 more. Last one. And coming all the way back up to center. And this time we're heel toeing the legs back into center, washing the knees side to side. Keeping the knees parallel, we're going to just heel toe them over towards the right side. Keeping the feet a little wider and then readjusting yourself. So you're sitting on the chair, coming to the inner blade of that right foot and the outer blade of the left foot. Now if you need to sit more further back in your chair to get a little more support, you are welcome to. So we're at an odd angle here. Hands resting on the side of your chair if you like the extra support, or your legs if you feel comfortable. Now we're going to get into cat and cow here, and this is of course getting through the pelvis, and we're working through that SI joint here. So on the inhale, we're opening up through the heart. We've already been here in cow pose. On the exhale, we're curling into that rounding. Inhaling and exhaling. We're opening up through the hips here, making sure above all else you feel stable. Let's take 3 more cat and cows here with this odd angle in the legs. Coming back to neutral. Hand rests on the side of the chair or the arm of your chair. Right hand to the left leg. This is the inhale. On the exhale, we're going to twist towards the left side, lift up through the right hip a little. Exhale, back to center. Inhale and exhale. Let's take 2 more. Coming back to center, and we're heel toeing those legs into center. Readjust yourself. You know what we're going to do on the other side, so if you need to sit back for more support, please do. And we're walking those feet off to the left this side, and then a good distance between the feet that feels good to you, coming to the outer and inner blade of those feet. Make sure again you feel stable. Hands to the side of your chair, arms of your chair or your legs. On the inhale, we bring the heart forward, arching. Exhale, rounding, extension of the spine, and compression. Inhaling and exhaling. If something doesn't feel right to you, please don't do it. Let's take 2 more. You are the expert of your body. You get to choose and decide. Coming back to center, right? From here, on the inhale, we're lifting up through the left hip and twisting. Exhaling, coming back. Getting that twist, looking over that right shoulder if you want to. Only as much or as little movement as feels good to you. And more or less, we have 1 more. Coming back to center. Walking the feet back into center, and from here, just as we've opened up, we want to strengthen a little bit. So we're going to do a few marches here in the legs, coming back or forward in your chair if you need to. We're going to lift up with the right leg, tap it down, up with the left. Exhale it down with your breath, nice and slow. Strengthening through the quads and resetting the pelvis here. Let's take 2 more either side. Last one. Coming all the way back to center. Take a big breath in. Exhale it out. Nice and slow and soft. Now let's come back to that breath right up in the torso. Inhaling, expanding. And exhaling, softening. Let's take that down into the belly. And then awareness down in your pelvic floor, that lowering on the inhale as everything in your torso expands. And softening, everything coming back to center. Again, this is not a bearing down, a pushing. It is a subtle awareness. I've often heard it described as kind of a blossoming down in the pelvic floor and lifting. And remember, the pelvic floor is from the pubic bone all the way underneath and up to the back of the tailbone. So you might even feel it a little bit back behind you. Let's take 2 more breaths just like that. Last one. Nicely done. Now you can focus on this as much as you like throughout your day, and notice if it's really tough for you, if it feels like everything's super tight there, then it's really important for you to start to increase your awareness with this opening and softening of the pelvic floor. And that's part 1 of our pelvic floor. We're going to come to it, a little bit of that breath at the end of class. But for now, those of you who wish to, I'll meet you down on the earth as we come to our back, and I will see you down there. Here we are, coming down to the floor, knees to the sky, feet to the floor. Once we're down here, we're going to pick up the pelvis, send it a little bit further away from our shoulders and lay it down. And then from here, we'll come back to our breath. Inhaling and exhaling, feeling that support underneath you. Feel free to close your eyes or soften or lower your gaze. It's a great way of focusing inwards, turning off our sight. And then see if in this new position you can focus on that whole torso breath. And this might be a little easier for some, a little harder for some, to focus in on that pelvic floor breath. As the belly lifts on that inhale, the pelvic floor pushes away gently. You are not doing that pushing. The body is naturally doing that for you. Again, as if you had a balloon in your entire pelvis, and the balloon not only fills your belly, but also it inflates the pelvic floor on the inhale and softening on that exhale. From here, we're going to take those hands to the side of you, next to your hips, palms facing down. And then on the inhale, we're going to lift the arms up overhead, as wide or as close together as you like. That's the inhale. And on the exhale, the palm's going to come down again. Inhaling, opening up overhead. Exhaling down. Nicely done. Great place to stay right here. Now starting to focus on those feet. And we want to start to press evenly down into those feet. On the inhale, as the arms lift, push into the feet and lift the pelvis. Maybe hover the pelvis. And on an exhale, we're coming all the way down. So maybe the pelvis feels a little lighter. Maybe it does lift from the floor as the arms come overhead. Exhaling, coming down. Use the feet for this. So pushing evenly down into both feet to lift the hips. And exhaling, using the feet to allow that descent to be slow. See if you can still breathe into the belly, maybe even down into that pelvic floor on the inhale. And maybe the hips lift a little higher, maybe they don't. Option to keep pulsing. Option, arms overhead, hips leave, and we stay there for 3 breaths. Take the breath into the whole torso, belly down to that pelvic floor. Push into the feet evenly, so the backs of the legs are lighting up here. Let's stay for one last breath. And on that exhale, hips come down, hands come down too. Let's take a breath in. Exhale it out. Nicely done. And we're going to come into thoracic rotation here. So we're going to take those arms out in a T shape around shoulder height if you have the space, and palms pressed down. If you don't have the space, maybe a cactus. Arms spread wide means we've got a little more connection down, so we'll notice the lifting of the shoulders more. From here, bending the knees in towards your chest and taking the knees and ankles in towards each other. And we want the knees kind of over the belly button or towards the chest. Shoulders rooting down, both shoulders. Chin tucked in a little so the back of the neck is long. And we're going to start with those knees kind of closer towards your chest. The ankles can be down by your seat or flexing those ankles up around knee height. This is the inhale. On the exhale, we're going to take the knees over to the right side. Left hip lifts, but the left shoulder roots down. You're only going as far as that left shoulder stays rooted. And we're coming back to center, rolling over the back of the pelvis and over to the other side. As soon as you've gone so far that right shoulder lifts, you know that that's too far. So we're keeping those shoulders rooted down, all the way through to those elbows and fingertips if they're extended, rolling side to side.
Getting that thoracic rotation there. We really want that, the shoulders connected down. And as we lift one side of the hip, that same side, the ribs are starting to lift. Going only as far as you can with those shoulders rooted down, gazes to center above you or closed eyes. Nicely done. Coming back to center now. Now you can do the same thing, or to get a little core involved, we're going to take those knees more or less a little further away from you, and it might be a centimeter or so. The knees might come above the hips, shoulders rooted. Same thing here. This is the inhale. When you're ready, on the exhale, we lift up one side of the pelvis as the knees come to the other side. That opposite shoulder is rooted. Nothing shifting across from fingertip to fingertip. And this might feel a little different because we've got a whole lot of core going on here. Keep the breath flowing. Let's take 3 more either side unless you're resting. If this feels a lot, please bring the knees in a little closer. If you're noticing that your palms are pressing down a little deeper into the earth, see if you can keep those nice and neutral. 1 more either side. And we're coming all the way back into center. Now draw the knees in, hands on your knees. And we're going to take a little rock and roll from side to side here. Keeping those knees in, take them wide by your ribs or your armpits, hands on your knees or any other configuration that feels good. And with those bent knees, knees in towards your chest there and wide, taking your awareness all the way down to that pelvic floor. And I want you to come back to that easy breath. And even with the compression here, belly expands, pelvic floor expands on that inhale and the softening. And it is a very small, subtle awareness. You might feel that blossoming all the way through to your tailbone. And this is often one of the easiest ways to tap into that softening of the pelvic floor. Let the blossoming happen naturally. This is not a bearing down. You are not pushing into the pelvic floor. Let it happen naturally. And it's easier here because we've got more compression in the internal organs, so we feel it a little more. Option from here is to take those hands towards the outer shins, ankles, or feet. Let the knees drop wide. Same thing here is the you've got less compression here, but this is supine frog. And the breath, the belly is soft here. And you might feel this down in the pelvic floor, again, a little easier. And if it's easier for you to feel it with your knees in, or that's more comfortable in your body, then that's what we do. Nicely done. Now from here, we're going to take our hands onto our knees and draw the knees in once again, feet down to the floor. We're going to take those legs a little wider, take the feet a little wider, arms come in a cactus or a T again, and we're going to wash those knees side to side. This is not unlike what we did when we were in the chair, only the feet are more evenly spaced. Option, next time the knees come over to the right, to stay. Gaze can come over that left shoulder. If you need to adjust anything here for it to feel better for you, please do. And can you even find that breath, that whole torso breath all the way down to your pelvic floor here? Option to stay for a few breaths, so we take the gaze up to center and knees come to center, over to the other side. Both shoulders stay rooted here. Gaze over that right shoulder this time. And take the breath all the way down through the torso, all the way down to that pelvic floor. And hopefully that is becoming more familiar to you, that soft breath. Let's take another breath here. Stay for as long as you like, of course. And when you're ready, we're coming all the way back up to center. From here, feet come in parallel. We're going to shift the hips to the right. Knees come up, in and over, keeping that right shoulder rooted, knees to the left. That left hand can rest on top of that outer right thigh, if you like, to give it a little bit of weight. Breathing into that outer right hip, and wherever it is that you're feeling it here, don't forget you have full permission to play around here. See what feels right for you. And then the gaze comes to center, knees come to center, feet come down, shift the hips over to the left this time as the knees come up and over to the right. That left shoulder rooted and grounded. Right hand can rest on top of the top knee and breathe. Gaze away over that left shoulder that suits you, playing with the height of your knees, any support you might need underneath them. Release and come back to center in your own time. Pelvis gets repositioned. Last one here. Any other shape you want to take to finish your practice, do go ahead, or the knees come in. Knees are wide towards the armpits once again. Modified happy baby, and you can stay here focusing on that soft breath in the belly and the pelvic floor. Or full happy baby, feet come up towards the ceiling. Maybe your hands come to either side of the thighs, shins, ankles, or the outside of those feet. Keep a softness here. And then breathe. Breathe into your whole torso. Breathe all the way down, not only your chest and heart space, the ribs, the belly, but take it all the way down into the pelvic floor. You can stay here for as long as you like. Or after one of your next breaths, if those feet were up towards the sky, we'll lower them towards your seat. Draw the knees in, any rocking and rolling, any other movement you want before the end of your practice. And we'll take the feet down, coming into your relaxation. So maybe constructive rest, knees together, ankles wide. Maybe a bolster under those knees or thighs, or your shape. And as you get connected down to where it is that you want to finish your practice, taking any extra layers, any extra comfort here for your relaxation, please go ahead. And we'll settle in and settle down here.
Softening the gaze or closing the eyes if you haven't already. And then take that breath, that consistent breath, all the way down into your torso. Inhaling, everything expands all the way down to your pelvic floor. And there's a softening and letting go. Let's take 3 more of those. And filling the breath into areas that you may not have felt the breath up until now. And more or less, we have 1 more breath to go. And on that last exhale, we let the breath go entirely, let it come back to its own natural rhythm. And now, because you've been so focused on the breath, even when you let the breath go, you might still notice that gentle expanding and softening without control. You might even feel that all the way down into the pelvic floor. That soft breath. Starting to allow your body to rest deeply and fully into the surfaces underneath you. If the thoughts are very present, notice them. Let's see if you can tune them out a little, as if they were simply a conversation in the next room. You might notice that you're listening to every now and again, but when you notice, just tune it out. Every exhale, deepening into that support underneath you, allowing yourself this time to start to relax and let go. Stay there for as long as you like. Or notice that support underneath you if you wish to finish your practice. Take your awareness back to your breath in your torso. And start to take a deeper breath in as the belly expands, feeling that pelvic floor expand. And on the exhale, that softening, that letting go. And starting to take deeper breaths in, and on the exhale, allowing a sigh out. Allowing some movement into your fingers and toes to start to awaken your body in your own slow and gentle way. Lazy movements. And then from there, maybe you stretch out wide or long, or curl in, give yourself a hug. Maybe the knees draw in, and washing the knees from side to side as we just were. If you're lying on your back, over the next few breaths, rolling to one side, whichever side suits you today. And again, reconnecting with the breath at every pause. And then bringing yourself up to a place that you wish to complete your practice today. Rooting to rise. Allowing the hands to gently rest into your completion today, whatever that means for you. There's no wrong way to do this. A gesture that suits you. Take a big breath in. Exhale, draw the chin down towards the chest. Soften or lower the gaze or close the eyes and take a moment here. Go back to that full torso breath. Take your awareness down to the pelvic floor as you breathe. No forcing here, just notice the rhythm of your breath as it pushes the belly out gently and the pelvic floor lowers on the inhale and draws back up on the exhale. And if you wish to start to build that awareness and start to reconnect with your pelvic floor, then this is the awareness for the next week, and we will add on to that next week. And I hope to see you then. Thank you so much for being here. Namaste.